Skinny? No, I didn't see him upstairs and I was up there. I didn't know who he was. Senator, how are you? How you doing? Congratulations. Okay. I think, Governor, you ready? I'm good. Thanks for doing it here. I'm honored. Well, you helped us. You helped us get this. I know. Your friend Andrew Sayers not happy with me. Who's that? Sayers. He wanted to do something. Oh, did he? Well, he said, the mayor got the U.S. Conference of Mayors to support the bills. Well, it's, thank you. I appreciate you doing it here. All right, I think we're ready to go. Okay. There's hand cleaner there if you need to. All right, just so you know.
Congratulations to you. I'm really happy for you. You know, so it's been a hell of a couple of years, but boy, is it good now.
You've come a long way.
Yeah,
Still standing.
Yeah, I'm happy for you too. I don't mind saying I love the New York Times wedding announcement.
Oh, did you?
And if I ever get a chance to introduce you, you're gonna push me off. But, I'm very, very happy for you. It's good stuff. How bad is it over there now with Biden? Is it getting
I mean, listen, it's better. The challenge still is. And we are. We won't. We won't bend it. Everything's going to keep the hammer down. Like delivering. We will do that.
Yeah, see the stuff. But congratulations. This is real for us.
Yeah.
Real. Yeah.
Quick. How are you? How you doing? Senator Superintendent of Schools. Olga Ugemeyer. Madam Superintendent, how are you? All right, Mayor. Time to go. Time to go. Go. Time to go. You want me to start? That's not what they told me. Oh, okay. Well, they told me you were. Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to welcome you and introduce you. Oh, I see how they have it. Yeah, it's your staff. Yeah. It's up to you. You tell me. I think you should welcome. Okay, I'll do that. All right. Say whatever you want to say. No. Sure. I feel better now. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us here on the steps of Elizabeth City Hall. I want to thank our members of the City Council here, Councilman Gallman, Councilman Cuesta, Councilman Cedeno, Councilwoman Patricia Perkins Augusti, Councilman Gonzalez, members of our legislative district, Senator Cryan, and Assemblywoman Keano and Assemblyman Jamel Holly. Members of the county commissioners are here, and Mayor Dellisfort and Mayor Janice Kovach, who is also the president of the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. County Commissioners Sergio Granados. Where am I? Oh, Councilman Mazza, I missed him. Oh, my goodness. Councilwoman Lourdes Leon, Commissioner Angela Garrettson, Commissioner Lourdes Leon, and Commissioner B.J. Kowalski, and our Superintendent of Schools, Olga Ugemeyer. First of all, this is an extremely important day. And many of you may not know this, but in 1947, Admiral Bull Halsey came here to the steps of this City Hall celebrating a victory in the Pacific Theater. These steps have held presidents and candidates for presidency. Yet this celebration here today with two United States senators, Senator Bob Menendez, Senator Cory Booker, and our governor, Phil Murphy, is a celebration for the first time in the history that I've been the mayor for 29 years, that the United States Congress is helping the men and women of the cities throughout our country. I am pleased to help celebrate this American Rescue Plan because, as all of you know, this has been a really difficult year fighting back on this virus. I remember in the last summer having many conversations with Senator Menendez, his chief of staff, Senator Booker, Congressman Series, about the SMART Act, when Senator Menendez first introduced a bipartisan bill with Senator Cassidy out of Louisiana. I thought this bill had a lot of hope for the cities of our country. The bill met politics back in last year, and with the election of two Democratic senators in Georgia and the election of Joe Biden as the president, Senator Menendez's vision of last summer with Senator Cory Booker has become a reality and signed by President Joe Biden. We cannot thank the members of Congress and our 2 senators for all of the work that they have done in this bill. This is good. This bill is going to make a huge difference for the cities and towns of our county, our state, and our nation. For Elizabeth, this maintains critical core local government work. Last summer, I had conversations with the unions of the police and fire and EMS behind us. And I said to them, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where the budgets are going. All I know is we're going to lose revenue. And if we lose revenue, then it's going to affect your jobs. The union leaders of the men and women behind me worked with us on time and schedules in order to avoid layoffs and understand a way to get through this, and hopefully there would be help coming from Congress. And I can tell you, the mayors of this state and this country really worked on the SMART Act. What if it didn't come a reality, the American Rescue Plan did become a reality. And it became a reality because of people like Senator Bob Menendez, Senator Cory Booker, Congressman Series, Congressman Payne, and the people who represent us here. So on behalf of the City of Elizabeth, Senator, I thank you for all of your efforts in Washington. I am pleased that the City of Elizabeth has 2 great senators. I give you the senior senator from New Jersey, Senator Bob Menendez.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Mayor, for that warm welcome to Elizabeth. The Mayor was showing me a picture 29 years ago when I first ran for Congress and he first ran for mayor. You still look the same, but I've aged, I'll tell you. But we're glad to be here today in this great city with all of the distinguished members of the council, the legislative team, the county commissioners, and certainly my colleague in the United States Senate. Let me just say, this wasn't easy, particularly to try to ensure that the things that were important to New Jersey were preserved. We came from attacks from various different quarters, but there's nothing better than having a dynamic duo that has Cory Booker as part of it, because when it comes to being passionate, particularly on the provisions, and one session couldn't possibly talk about everything this bill has, so we'll have various throughout the course of the next several weeks talking about the different elements and how it will help New Jersey, how it will help schools, how it will help families, how it will help, of course, today our communities. But Cory Booker was laser focused on making sure that we bring children out of poverty. And this bill has the greatest opportunity to bring 10 million children out of poverty in this country. And Cory, you deserve a lot of credit. I also appreciate being here with Union Township Mayor Dellisford. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to, she brought her own team, absolutely. Let's hear it for her. And both Cory and I want to thank President Biden for his leadership. We appreciated his invitation to go to the White House today to celebrate the signing of the American Rescue Plan. But the truth is, we would much rather be here celebrating what this bill means for New Jersey. So we're here today to say that help is truly on the way. Democrats made a promise to the American people. If voters put us in charge, we would act boldly and quickly to end the pandemic and turn our economy around. Today, I'm proud to say we've kept our promise to begin to do exactly that. The American Rescue Plan will put us on a path to end the worst pandemic in 100 years and the most devastating economic crisis of our lifetime. It will accelerate vaccination efforts nationwide because that's our greatest hope for crushing COVID-19 and getting back to our lives. And it is built to help the families, workers, businesses, and communities hardest hit by the pandemic. In the coming weeks, more than $9.5 billion billion with a B. I like B because it stands for Bob, but in any event, more than $9.5 billion in stimulus checks will flow to approximately 3.7 million households across New Jersey. Checks will average about $2,600 per household and reach the vast majority of New Jersey families. We also make historic investments in working families. For example, our expansion of the child tax credit to $3,600 for each child under 6 and $3,000 for children under 18 will benefit 560,000 children in New Jersey who previously didn't qualify for the full credit. This is the biggest, most audacious anti-poverty initiative our nation has undertaken in generations. It will lift 10 million children out of poverty, including an estimated nearly 90,000 in New Jersey, and cut the national child poverty rate in half. Let me repeat that. It will cut the child poverty rate in half. And it will be a lifeline for minority communities who have been hit the hardest by this pandemic. From helping safely reopen our schools to keeping families in their homes, there's so much more in this bill to discuss. But here today, we want to talk about something I'm particularly proud of, something I fought for relentlessly from the start of this crisis, and that's $350 billion in direct, flexible aid to state, local, and county governments across America. Now, I ask everyone to remember, I ask everybody to remember, just to take a step back, what it was last spring when the coronavirus began to spread like wildfire. Healthcare workers scrambling for protective gear, curfews taking effect, businesses shutting down, schools and child centers closing, small towns and big cities grinding to a halt, tax revenues freezing overnight, unemployment claims soaring, states starting bidding wars over medical supplies. We needed a national effort to fight COVID-19, but former President Trump refused to lead. He refused to create an aggressive national strategy for testing, for procuring supplies, and for stopping the spread of the virus. And he politicized the issue of wearing a mask, dramatically undermining efforts to contain the virus. It soon became clear that our states and communities would be largely left on their own to battle the worst pandemic in a century. And I want to pause on that moment to say, we had a governor who led the nation in showing what is possible to do, making tough decisions, turning the tide on the virus. We have more people being vaccinated in this state than in many other states in the country. Governor Murphy, thank you so much for your leadership in that critical time. And it's that set of circumstances that led me to take up the cause of emergency aid to state and local governments. No one in the Senate beat this drum louder than me, maybe because Cory and I were former mayors. We understand what it is to face the challenges at the front line or in the state as former legislators. I was the first to call for funding for our hardest hit communities. My legislation, the mayor referred to, the SMART Act, was the first to provide direct, flexible funding to every state, county, and municipality in the nation, regardless of its size. And I was the first in the Senate to secure bipartisan support for providing billions to state and local governments at a moment when federal leadership was sorely lacking. The SMART Act also won bipartisan support from the National Governors Association, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the League of Cities, and other organizations who helped mobilize local leaders to demand action from Congress. And today I want to publicly thank Mayor Chris Bolwich for his work getting the U.S. Conference of Mayors abroad when no one else was doing it. Thank you, Mayor. Now, despite overwhelming bipartisan support across America, Mitch McConnell labeled our initiative a blue state bailout. Never mind the fact that, unlike Kentucky, that gets billions more than it sends to the federal government, New Jersey often pays more to the federal government than it gets in return. Or the fact that, according to the Congressional Budget Office, state and local aid provides the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to stimulating the economy. The reality is that McConnell opposed passing any more COVID relief until it became clear that he had 2 special elections in Georgia on his mind. Well, elections have consequences. The voters chose to put Joe Biden in the White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate. And even so, securing this $350 billion in state and local relief was never a given. We had to continually argue for the funding and remind our colleagues that this was about jobs. We remember from the Great Recession how layoffs of first responders, the men and women behind us, who protect us every day, who respond to our emergencies, who were critical during the height of the pandemic when we were all being told stay home, they were still on the front lines. Teachers and other public workers, during that period of time, our layoffs of those individuals prolonged the economic misery for all Americans. That's because it makes little difference whether someone gets a paycheck from a big corporation or a local government. When families lose a source of income, the pain ripples throughout the community. Even in the final days leading up to the vote, I had to make clear to some of my own colleagues that my support hinged on getting New Jersey communities and families the resources they needed. And fortunately, we prevailed. Modeled after my SMART Act, the American Rescue Plan will send direct, flexible aid to every state, county, and municipality in America. More than $10 billion will flow to New Jersey just in this regard. About $6.4 billion to the state of New Jersey itself, and $1.8 billion split among our 21 county governments, and another $1.74 billion divided among all 565 cities and municipalities. Right here alone, $221 million is headed to Union County, including $92.4 million split among its 21 municipalities. We're talking nearly $40 million right here in the city of Elizabeth alone, Mayor, and $16 million for Union Township. This will help leaders like Mayor Bowerge and Mayor Dellisford fight the pandemic, keep essential workers on the job, and protect services their residents rely on. And to those who label this a blue state bailout, those 50 Republican senators who voted against the American Rescue Plan, and by the way, 1 or 2 members of Congress from New Jersey as well, let me remind everyone that $180 billion in direct aid is slated for states that President Trump won, that have Republican governors, or at least 1 Republican senator. I'm sure they're not going to give back the money. I said it before, and I'll say it again. The American Rescue Plan is about rescuing the American way of life, so that our children can learn in classrooms instead of on computer screens, so that we can gather with loved ones without fear, so that we can join hands together in prayer at the house of worship we choose, enjoy a night out at our favorite restaurant, and rebuild the spirit of community across our country that we have all missed over the last year. With that, let me turn over the program to my incredible colleague, as you heard, probably one of the most significant members responsible for lifting children out of poverty in this nation, Senator Cory Booker.
It is so good to be here in Elizabeth. And I'm telling you, this is the right reason. I know that Senator Menendez wanted to have the press conference here in Elizabeth, not just because of the critical role of the great leader of this city, but also because this bill is so big, this bill is so huge, this bill is so significant. He wanted to invoke the philosophy of a great American thinker, Fred Sanford, that Elizabeth, this is the big one. I'm so honored to be here today, and I want to first just recognize all the incredible local leaders here. Bob and I both started as a city council person, as a school board member, as a mayor. We know that when we got the invitation, as Bob said, to go to the White House or to our communities, we wanted to stand here with you because this is a bill about us. It's about us. It's that tradition in America when we are hurting, when we are in pain, whether it's the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor or terrorists attacking the Twin Towers, we don't turn against each other, we turn to each other. For too long, this pandemic, we have seen some of the worst of us. People trying to make this political. People trying to divide our country, making us weak. Over 500,000 Americans have died. We cannot forget the people from Elizabeth, from Union, from Newark, the people that we know, the people that we love who've passed away in this crisis. And so in a time of grief and a time of sorrow, when we still have weeks, and if you listened to the president last night, even months before we are out of this darkness, this is the moment that we turn to each other. And people haven't just lost their lives. Everyone here knows that there are people who spent a lifetime, their parents or grandparents, building a business only to see that business driven to its knees, that livelihood almost lost. People have lost their jobs. Their children have been out of school. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't know how they're going to make the mortgage payment or pay the rent. We are still going through the valley of the shadow of death. And that's why today is a triumphant day. It's a day where we know we've faced many defeats, but we show that we are not defeated. And we invest in the greatest thing we have in America, which is not our buildings, our factory, it's not our natural forests. No, the greatest thing we have in America to invest in is each other. Is each other. And I'm not trying to be political, but this $1.9 trillion cost, remember, 4 years ago, another $1.9 trillion plan was done. It was called a tax cut that was supposed to benefit us all, but 65% of the benefits of that tax cut went to the top 20% of earners. The working folks in our state, the starting teacher, the diner server, the first-year police officer, the people in the bottom 20% only got 1% of that $1.9 trillion tax cut. Well, Joe Biden and some great workers on the Hill changed that with this bill. We made sure that in the worst crisis we have seen in our lifetimes, we have the greatest piece of legislation to respond to that crisis. And I want to thank Bob Menendez. You all don't know how tough this man is. If you are going to be in a foxhole, you want Bob Menendez next to you. Amen. Everything. Politicians aren't known for their humility, but it wasn't just his bill that led to make sure that we got funding for state and local government. Anytime something touched New Jersey, he was a fighter for our state, a fighter for our restaurant, a fighter for our school, a fighter for our hospital, a fighter for our children. Would you please give him one more round of applause? And I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I want you to know your governor, he's the governor of the state, but dear God, I thought he was the third senator. He was so much down there. I'm not joking. He talked to our caucus more than once. He talked to Chuck Schumer more than he talked to his wife. He was. He was.
People know what is needed, what was on the line. He is responsible for this success, and I want to give a thank you to our governor. So I want to highlight just some things real quick, because Bob talked about the funding for state and local governments. But remember, in your lifetime, this is the biggest investment made in working Americans, the biggest investment made in families. Yes, the bill that I championed from the last Congress with Kamala Harris and a senator from Ohio and a senator from Colorado will cut the child poverty rate nearly in half, but 90% of American families will benefit from the increased child tax credit. 90% of American families. This is a massive multi-billion-dollar investment in our towns and counties. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar investment in New Jersey schools and teachers. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar investment in New Jersey small restaurants. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar investment in unions and securing their pensions. It's a massive multi-million-dollar investment in parents. It's a massive multi-million-dollar investment in testing and vaccines. We know that the child tax credit is going to directly affect 1.6 million New Jersey kids and their families. And every dollar that we invest in every New Jersey child going above the poverty line returns $7 to our communities. Because when you invest in kids, it's better than any financial instrument on Wall Street. You get $7 for every dollar you invest. We also expanded and perfected the Earned Income Tax Credit, which means 354,000 working New Jerseyans will get more back from their taxes. 3.6 million New Jersey households. 3.6 million. Over 80% of New Jerseyans, period. I know what the firefighters are making. I know what the police officers are making. Every one of them will get a $1,400 check for themselves, their spouses, and each one of their children. You think about this, a middle-income family of 4 in New Jersey with 2 kids. Think about this for a second. A family of 4 in New Jersey with 2 children will see at a minimum from this bill, $8,200 to their families. An individual just out of high school here at Elizabeth put off college for a year because they couldn't afford it. Work at a minimum wage job, that individual just by themselves will get $2,300 from this bill. And so this is a significant day. This is a victory for America. It is a victory for New Jersey. But I'm going to tell you something. Senator Menendez and I have not yet begun to fight. We know just the Great Recession from 2009 had a generational effect in our country. We must. Bob, are you okay? Is it coming for you? It's the big one, Elizabeth. It's the big one.
Coming to join you.
We still have work to do, everybody. I just really want to bring back to the governors, before I bring on the governors, or the president's words. We're not out of this. We are going to get some resources for our schools and our restaurants and our hospitals and our police departments, fire departments, but we're not out of this yet. I want to appeal to every single New Jerseyan. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Abide by the guidelines of our doctors and medical professionals. Still help somebody. You're going to get a $1,400 check. Maybe there's a homeless shelter that needs a little more help. You can afford it. Help another person. We're not out of this yet. Senator Menendez and I are going to talk all over our state, but we're going back to work on Monday because he and I both know there's more work to be done. Union, Elizabeth, they need some infrastructure dollars.
We want that infrastructure.
We want that infrastructure bill. Bob and I believe, I say Bob and I believe, I'm the junior senator. Bob is going to go back to leading because we need immigration reform. You should hear him talk about our dreamers when nobody else is around but other senators who don't prioritize our immigrants. We need to start fighting for each other more, not against each other, but for each other. Yes. And it's not just our big battles. Sometimes it's the small things that can save a life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring up America's greatest governor, Phil Murphy.
Oh my God. I was going to say I rest my case. Yeah, it is downhill from there, man. It's bad enough I have to follow Bob and Cory and Chris before them, but good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Cory, thank you for that introduction, and you're half the man you used to be. You look fabulous. So, to you and Senator Bob Menendez, I know I speak on behalf of all of us. I cannot thank you enough for all that you did to get the American Rescue Plan across the finish line and to ensure especially that the needs of our states were not left out. Let's give them both another round of applause. And by the way, it's not the only thing they've been doing. These guys have to walk and chew gum, and I'll pick one example. Check out what this guy to my left said as the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee when he shredded the People's Republic of China yesterday for what they're doing to shred democracy in Hong Kong. God bless you, and always standing up. And I could give you examples for Cory as well. President Biden's enactment of the American Rescue Plan yesterday reminded me of another historic moment, one which has proven transformative for countless middle class and working New Jersey families, the signing of the Affordable Care Act. And this one will be just as transformative. And as the president himself said way back then, it's a big you-know-what deal. And it is just as important that we are joined by some outstanding mayors, including our host this morning, Mayor Chris Bolwich. Mayor, thank you for everything you do for so many folks here. And a special thanks for the weather this morning. We also will hear in a few minutes from Mayor Michelle Dellisfort from Union Township. Mayor, bless you. Mayor Janice Kovach bringing greetings not just from Clinton, her hometown, but also from the New Jersey League of Municipalities. Because we have to remember, I'm the only non-mayor speaking this morning. It is not just a rescue plan for American families who have been trying to stay afloat for the past year, which it is, but it's also for them in a pandemic that has upended their lives and careers. But it is also a plan that ensures the vital services that those families rely upon. Police and fire, public health and emergency medical services, our public schools and more will remain viable and fully staffed. Please join me again in acknowledging the extraordinary frontline workers behind us today. Guys and ladies, bless you all. They've already been acknowledged, but by name or by group, I want to acknowledge the legislative leaders today. My dear friend, outstanding Senator Joe Cryan, Assemblywoman Annette Quijano, newly vaccinated, Assemblyman Jamel Hawley, the Superintendent of Education here, the extraordinary members of your council, Chris, and the extraordinary county commissioners. Angela Gerritsen, again, I give you the assist on making that happen. Everything that makes a town, a community, from the families who live there to the people who serve them, is protected in this. And that's what makes this a truly historic moment. For New Jersey at the state level, well over $6 billion that we will be receiving in direct federal support will give us tremendous new degrees of freedom in meeting our obligations to our people and our business community, and to secure the historic investments that will help us emerge from the pandemic stronger, fairer, and more resilient. As Cory pointed out, folks, we're still in the fight. I'm here to tell you that overnight, 3,544 new cases of COVID in the state. With the heaviest of hearts, I pronounce that 40 more of our blessed brothers and sisters have left us. There are still 1,884 folks in a hospital bed. The variants we know are in the state, so don't give up the fight. For starters, the federal support for our vaccination efforts will ensure that we can get more shots into the arms of our fellow New Jerseyans so we can reach our vaccination goals that much faster and reopen our schools and our economy and do so responsibly. As of about an hour ago, we have put 2,823,731 shots into people's arms in New Jersey. The more than $2.7 billion in funds that will largely flow right to our public schools will not only help get our kids and educators back into their classrooms, which it will, but it will help insulate property taxpayers from shouldering the costs. And $900 million in support for our institutions of higher education will allow them to get back to safely reopening their classrooms and campuses. An additional $450 million in emergency rental relief will protect families against the specter of eviction and homelessness. Nearly $700 million in child care supports to help take more of the burden of our working parents paying for high-quality child care is heading to our Department of Human Services. We've already put millions of dollars in previous CARES Act funds to work making child care more affordable for our families. And as was mentioned, the expansion of the federal child care tax credit, especially when paired with our proposal for an expanded and refundable state tax credit, will further help working families and meaningfully help us attack, as was mentioned, child poverty. But its impact is even bigger for the countless working moms across our state who have shouldered an increasingly unequal burden. And on, line by line, from Main Street, particularly our hard-hit restaurants and performance spaces, to the kitchen table, and from our unemployed to those working from home. This is the relief that our families and communities have sorely needed to get them through these challenging times. This is the plan that our families needed from the start. This is the plan that will prevent them from falling through the cracks. This is the plan that will allow exponentially more of them to look with optimism to the days and weeks and months to come instead of with dread. And as I've said many times over the past year, this pandemic has required us to think big and act bold. Faced with historic challenges to our physical security, our public health, and our economic well-being, our very sense of who we are, history would not be kind to us if we collectively shrank away from the opportunity to meaningfully help our families and combat the inequalities that the pandemic may not have created, but surely exposed and definitively deepened. And with the American Rescue Plan, history will look kindly upon our efforts. I literally do not know where we would be with our two United States senators. Please help me once again give them a huge round of applause. Bob Menendez and Cory Booker. They were two, not just yes votes, and they were, but two huge leaders on this. And we spoke, as Cory mentioned, all the time. I also want to, by name, mention the members of our House delegation who, in addition to Bob Menendez and Cory Booker, also voted yes to support the American Rescue Plan. Representatives Frank Pallone, Bill Pascrell, Donald Payne, Albio Ceres, Bonnie Watson-Coleman, Donald Norcross, Josh Gottheimer, Mikey Sherrill, Andy Kim, and Tom Malinowski. I thank them for their vote, for their leadership and support in the House. Let's give each of them in absentia a round of applause. This is a good day for our nation. It is a great day for our state. Let's not relent. Let's stay at it and defeat this virus. Senator, to the mayors, the other elected officials, I want to make one commitment as I close, and that is the following. Thanks to decisions that were made, explicit decisions that had an orthodoxy around small government, cutting to the bone, cutting services, cutting headcount, including of our precious frontline workers, New Jersey was the very last state to recover from the Great Recession of over a decade ago. I commit to you today, on behalf of my administration, working with our extraordinary federal partners, especially Senator Bob Menendez and Senator Cory Booker, as well as all these extraordinary elected officials, I commit to you today that New Jersey will be the #1 state to recover from this pandemic. You have my word. With that, please help me welcome an exceptional mayor to round out our program, the mayor of Union Township, Mayor Michelle Dellisfort. Mayor. With your cheering section.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I, too, would like to acknowledge all of our elected officials here, Senator Joseph Cryan, the commissioners from the Commissioner Board, and the elected officials from the city of Elizabeth, as well as Mayor Bowledge. And I'd like to thank Senators Menendez and Senator Booker, Congressman Payne and Malinowski, and Governor Murphy for their tireless efforts in securing vital funding that will keep New Jersey families from despair. New Jersey is uniquely positioned to have Democratic leadership in the Senate, in the House, and in the governorship, who works closely together for the benefits of residents of this district and the entire state of New Jersey. Today is the culmination of many months of local work, compromise, and the focus of the American people. I recall that the relief funding in this bill has, in one form or another, been advanced by Senator Menendez and Senator Booker for many years, as we heard earlier. A historic problem deserves a historic solution, and the American Rescue Plan is historic in every sense of the word. Without these champions fighting for us, from the steps of the Capitol building to right here at the front steps of City Hall, New Jersey families would continue to struggle to make ends meet. As the mayor of Union Township, a mid-sized municipality, I can tell you that every day I receive phone calls and emails from families and businesses who are struggling to recuperate from the pandemic, from businesses who are trying to keep their doors open, from families that are reworking their schedules so they can stay at home and educate their children. Today, hope springs eternal, and we have the folks right here on these steps to thank for that. I especially would like to thank Governor Murphy for his leadership over the extraordinary year by safeguarding our health and displaying the courage to really act against all of the nonsense out there. He he basically risked criticism. He has placed New Jersey on the right side of history, and for that, can we please give him an applause? The Township of Union is grateful to receive this direct, flexible, and federal assistance, which will help Union families get through difficult times as we shift our focus on recovery and an end to this pandemic. We intend to work quickly to use these funds to help our struggling businesses, to bring financial aid to families in need, and also to help stabilize our tax base, assuming cost certainty for years to come. These funds will allow us, like all local governments, to assist our constituents directly and in an efficient manner. It'll provide relief and municipalities to advancing the reopening of New Jersey, our economic recovery on which thousands of jobs and the livelihoods of New Jersey depend on. The recovery will not be immediate, and the challenge of leadership will never be greater than years to come. I thank the leaders on these steps for providing us with the critical funding that we desperately need to respond to and begin the recovery from the pandemic. And if you're watching this press conference from home, or if you're in the audience and you feel like there's just a little bit of hope for the future, there's no hope or no reason to be optimistic about the American story, please hang on. Please know that help is on the way, and that the next chapter of our beautiful American story, our New Jersey story, has yet to be written. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, and very briefly before, if I can, because I know I've gotten notes about the Hispanic presses here, I'm just going to take 2 minutes to say, synthesize what we said in English and say it in Spanish. Estamos aquí hoy para reconocer lo que pudimos lograr en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos con mi colega, el senador Cory Booker, conjunto con la voz del gobernador Murphy y los alcaldes y todos los aliados aquí, para rescatar la familia norteamericana de las consecuencias de la pandemia, de las consecuencias económicas, de asegurar que todos podemos recibir una vacuna y lo más pronto posible para que podamos tener un fin a la pandemia y reconocer de nuevo las oportunidades de una economía en la cual todos podemos participar. Los más de 10 billones de dólares que vienen al estado de New Jersey, para el estado, para los condados, para las ciudades, le van a poder ayudar a responder a las necesidades del pueblo en una forma que no hemos visto en mucho tiempo, pero que hace falta enormemente. la oportunidad de mantener los hombres y mujeres de los cuerpos policíacos, los bomberos, las enfermeras, los de salud pública, todo eso es posible por medio de esta ley. Así que felicitamos al presidente Biden por liderar y reconocemos que hoy es un día en el cual podemos mirar hacia el futuro con esperanza. With that, we're happy to answer some on-topic questions. Yes? I don't know if you get three because we got a lot of people, but go ahead.
Questions to the governor. How specifically will the funds be used to speed up the vaccine rollout, and specifically how will they be used to help districts reopen their buildings? To Senator Booker, if you'll help us break down how the $8,200 will be delivered to families, how much comes immediately, how much comes in tax credits. And back to the governor, if you could please tell us how will this be used for New Jersey Transit? This question is for Brenda Flanagan. It provides a one-shot infusion, but not consistent funding that people are hoping.
Don't be mad. I'm going to give you a short answer. The funds are going to go to all of those needs, whether it's transit, vaccines, getting schools open, details to come.
My team can break down to you all the how the money go into different tranches.
Governor, you've always asked about a big shot of money needing to come to the state. Is this exactly what you were talking about, or is much more needed in order to help the state of New Jersey fund all the things that it's had to deal with in the last?
This is a huge deal, period. I mean, I can't predict the future. It feels like we are breaking the back of the second wave. Vaccinations are getting out there. Supplies from the feds are going to go up, I think, beginning in early April. This is a huge, huge deal, and we wouldn't be here today without Bob Menendez and Cory Booker.
Senator Booker,
And you are?
And Brian, thanks for getting dressed up too.
Yeah, Brian, I really appreciate that, man.
only for you, Governor. Senator Booker, as far as the child tax credit is concerned, this is going to people who aren't necessarily poor or aren't necessarily in the lower half of the middle class, even up to $400,000. I understand in income you get at least a partial tax credit. Does that seem at all misplaced?
Not at all. First of all, it's been governed down from the 400. But you have to understand, in New Jersey, the average family is spending about $10,000 annually per child. The costs of children have been going up. The governor's been doing a phenomenal job about pushing down the cost of child care, but it's still an extreme cost for children. And so we know that if you look around the world, our competitors have something called a child allowance, from Canada to England to Australia. We are one of the worst nations of the developed world for investing in our children. So we know all across this state, whether you're making $100,000 a year, paying New Jersey taxes, the cost of living here, that this is going to be of significant help to families. So I'll break down to you the new sort of when it starts graduating out and all. But I think this is the most significant policy we as a country have said, that we are going to prioritize our children. And I'm going to tell you already, not even hiding the ball here, I am working already diligently to make this 1-year expansion of the CTC, the child tax credit, and the earned income tax credit. I am already in conversations with the White House, conversations with business leaders, conversations with foundation leaders. I'm trying to help coordinate a full court press in America to make the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit changes permanent in the United States of America, so we can join our industrial peers for investing in America's children. And again, I'll say it, $1 invested in the success of our children provides, and I don't care, you say middle class family, a police officer who's married to a school teacher, they still urgently need that extra support for their children. Thank you.
Concern about the South, that this is bloated. How do you assure people the money is going to things that are needed and not just the wish list?
No, it's not bloated. I mean, getting our schools safely, responsibly, reopened as soon as possible, to my way of thinking, is not bloating. So money to help us prosecute our vaccine plan, continue our testing plan, getting schools opened, keeping our first responders and frontline workers fully employed in delivering services. I'm told the number of utility payment arrearages right now is over $700 million. So I promise you the list of needs in our state are long, and these guys have led, and this is exactly what the doctor ordered.
Can I join you in that?
Please.
I gotta say something about this, because normally Cory and I get excoriated because New Jersey doesn't get enough money back. Today we're getting excoriated because supposedly it's bloated. I guess you can't win in this job. But let me address that head on. There are so many New Jersey homeowners who are on the verge of losing their home through no fault of their own. They lost their jobs, they can't make their mortgage payments, and the home is the biggest single asset that most Americans, most New Jerseyans will have to build wealth. Is it bloated to try to help those homeowners stay in their home? We're told in the height of the pandemic, stay home. Stay home. If you're sick, stay home. Well, there are thousands of rent payers who have not been able to make their payments on rent. Is it bloated to help them and then ultimately the homeowners who they have to pay the rent to be able to do that and have a place to call home? Is it bloated to try to finally get our children back in school instead of in front of a computer screen without the interaction, the social interaction of other friends, and the best ability to teach a child, which I'm still convinced is in a classroom with a world-class teacher? No, I don't think that's bloated. Is it bloated to keep the men and women of the police force, the firefighters, emergency management, public health nurses on the job? Do we celebrate them only when one of them have lost their lives? No, I don't think it's bloated. So please, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing here that's bloated. There's everything here that rescues our American families. So.
Yeah, well, that's all she wrote, right? Is that good? That's good.
We want to thank all of you for coming. I especially want to thank Senator Bob Menendez, Senator Cory Booker, for all of their work in the Congress. I especially thank Governor Phil Murphy for his leadership. We have a vaccine clinic here where we've given out thousands of vaccines at the Dunn Center with FEMA, and it's we look forward to more and more vaccines and getting more and more people vaccinated. I got to tell you, as on behalf of the mayors that are here and the members of City Council, the money that's coming to us is like Senator Bob Menendez said. We need to make sure our first-line workers have the resources to continue in their job. This bill does that. Senator, thank you very much. Senator, thank you. Governor, thank you.
Thank you all.
Chris, congrats.